Hey, what is going on, you giggling Garchomp? So I know I've been kind of lacking on the content over here on the YouTube channel and with the streams as well. I've been kind of just feeling a little bit as far as content goes, a little bit uninspired. But I'm sure I'll get back into the swing of things a little bit more in a week or so. But today we're going to be talking about one of the craziest Pokemon decks that has probably ever won a tournament. And that's Schulz's Urshifu VMAX. It's crazy. We'll get into the list and we'll talk about it. Before we take a look at the list, though, and I kind of break it down and go over everything that I know about that, because there's so much crazy stuff going on that I'm definitely not going to be able to break everything down for you guys. But from looking at it and having played a couple games with it, I can go over some of it for sure. Just want to give a huge shout out, as always, to Full Grip Games. And if you guys want to support me and everything I do over here, then be sure to go check them out, fullgripgames.com. If you need cards, fullgripcodes.com if you guys need codes. And then, of course, if you guys have some random bulk Pokemon cards lying around, go ahead and check out their buy list and their bulk. They buy bulk as well. They buy the bulk. They buy your cards. They want your cards. Go sell them your cards. Not only will you get some money, but you also support me over here and everything I do on the YouTube channel and the stream, twitch.tv/AzulGG, where I stream every day except Mondays. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this list. Let's break it down. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So take a look at the Pokemon first before we take a look at everything else. I know there's a lot to take in. There's a lot going on. Take a look at the Pokemon first. So let's just go through the engine. So it is a Rapid Strike deck for the most part. So we got like the 1/1 Octillery in here alongside, you know, the Inteleon line here. We got 4 Sobble, 3 Shady Dealings Drizzile, 1 Shady Dealings Inteleon, and 1 Quick Shooting Inteleon. So that is kind of the support Pokemon there. And there's a Snorlax in here as well. No Crobat, no Luminion, but a Snorlax with the Gourmandize for the early setup turns there. Now let's get into the attackers. Now this is where it gets really interesting. So we have Urshifu, of course, with 2/2 Urshifu here. And that's really good, obviously, against Arceus decks, and then also like up against one prizer decks like the Rapid Strike Malamar is going to be really good, and it is part of your win condition up against Mew VMAX as well. For the most part, there's a couple of ways you can beat Mew VMAX with this deck. I think for sure, you can get to you can get off the GMAX Rapid Flow plus the Passimian, plus a telescopic sight combo, and you can like knock out 2 Genesects that way when you combo that with the Yoga Loop of the Metacham. So if you get the Rapid Strike Urshifu involved, with the Passimian, with the telescopic sight, with the Metacham combo, that's been a combo for a while for Rapid Strike Urshifu up against Mew VMAX. Then your GMAX Rapid Flows are doing 180 damage to the Genesects, and then the Yoga Loop can kind of clean them up. It gets a little bit weird if they do play the Oricorio, but you can use Quick Shooting sometimes to fix your math, or you can like KO the Oricorio plus do some snipe damage to the Genesect, and then from there, Urshifu has always kind of struggled with closing out the game from that point on, or just kind of having a lack of options in your early game or mid game, late game, because your early game can be so weak in the matchup. But the other card that's kind of included in here as another attacker is that Galarian Moltres. So there is the Urshifu, and then you also have this Galarian Moltres in here, which is obviously great against Mew VMAX and anything else that's weak to dark, but I guess that's just Mew VMAX for the most part. So great against Mew VMAX, and there's also a Hoopa in here. So Hoopa can be really cool for some early turns as well to knock out stuff like Meloetta up against Mew. But if they have the Oricorio hitting to the Meloetta, not as good, but it does allow you to set up like a Yoga Loop play on the Meloetta potentially. I don't know how often that would actually come up, to be honest. To then transition into like a GMAX Rapid Flow and then maybe clean up with the Moltres. But another way that the matchup can potentially play out is you kind of just use Moltres, because you could use like Hoopa to KO Meloetta, and then you could use Moltres to KO, I don't know, a Genesect or a Mew VMAX after they've drawn a couple prize cards, and then you have stuff like Clara or the Ordinary Rod to recover the Moltres and then attack with Moltres again. You could even do like Moltres plus Clara, then Palpad for the Clara, use the Clara again to go Moltres. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can kind of combat the Mew VMAX matchup. I think the one that's going to come up most often is probably the GMAX Rapid Flow on a couple Genesects, and then maybe the Moltres after that to kind of close out the game. But there's a lot of things going on, a lot of different ways you can play, and that's why I said this deck is like so crazy. I can't really pinpoint down the correct way to play any matchup directly, because I haven't played that much with the deck. I really have not played that much with the deck. So played a couple games on the stream the other day, and I mean, it was just wild. It was a wild ride, but that's definitely some stuff you can do up against Mew. And then obviously if you play up against like the Arceus V-Star, Rapid Strike Urshifu is just so good against Arceus. It's weak to fighting. A lot of people aren't playing Dunsparce is another thing. And I was even saying going into Liverpool, I was like, if I'm playing an Arceus deck going into Liverpool, I'm playing Dunsparce just in case some wacky fighting stuff comes up. Because if someone can like somehow figure out their Mew matchup, then if they just need to include like a couple fighting Pokemon, whether that be like a Dawn fan line or something like a Zapdos V or Urshifu, you know, you at least have a chance against those wacky fighting stuff that might show up. And a wacky fighting deck did show up, because this deck it's everything. It's cool, it's crazy, it's wacky. And it's just a ton of fun to play, to be honest, because it's such a challenge to try and make work. So yeah, Rapid Strike Urshifu just super good against Arceus, especially because a lot of people aren't playing the Dunsparce. But even if they are playing Dunsparce, you know, you pull off a G-Max Rapid Flow, or even like a boss KO on the Dunsparce. You could even do like an early boss KO on Dunsparce with the Hoopa, and then go into your Urshifu VMAXs from there. But you could go like G-Max Rapid Flow with one of your Urshifus, you know, knock out a Dunsparce, take care of a Sobble, and then you go into your other Urshifu and you go with that Gale Thrust, or even you can go with the 100 Furious Blows, which is sometimes the better line to go with, because if you go into a Gale Thrust with the Urshifu VMAX up against literally anything, and you want to hit again with a Gale Thrust instead of something like a G-Max Rapid Flow, you got to get back to the bench and then back to the active. In this list specifically, there's not a ton of switch cards. There's the Bird Keeper. You could Tower of Waters as well, and like retreat and then scoop up net a non-rule box Pokemon you send into the active, and then kind of do that switcheroo there, or non-V, non-GX Pokemon you send into the active. It's not just rule boxes, and kind of make that combo work there. So but those are the two main matchups in the format. And like I said, up against like Rapid Strike Malamar, I mean, Rapid Strike Urshifu has just like always been like so good in that matchup. And also you can do like Yoga Loop plays, and there's just like a bunch of ways to beat that matchup, especially because they're not playing Manaphy. Now, if the Manaphy gets involved, which it might start getting involved in some of these Rapid Strike Malamar lists, that would definitely make the matchup a lot closer, I think, because like you would take away a lot of your power as the Urshifu deck for sure. You could still, you know, do some cool Yoga Loop plays, but if they put a Manaphy in play and you're not taking 2 prize cards on your G-Max Rapid Flows, I don't think the Yoga Loop plays are probably going to be enough to carry you, especially because you only play 1 quick shooting in this list, and like nothing like a Zigzagoon or any other way to build up your numbers a little bit faster on that Manaphy. Maybe something like a second quick shooting being put in here to help with that could be helpful, but I don't know. There's just so much to test out with this deck that it'd be hard for me to make a judgment call on what would want to be replaced. But yeah, you could kind of chase the Manaphy. The problem with chasing Manaphy up against like the Rapid Strike Inteleon or Rapid Strike Malamar with the Inteleon is they play like double Rescue Carrier and an Ordinary Rod. You can't really get through 4 Manaphies. It's just not going to happen. So you need to like somehow do like a Yoga Loop play for sure. You have to definitely be Yoga Looping them. There's no way you get through 4 Manaphies. So you'd have to like do a Yoga Loop play into a G-Max Rapid Flow, but it's definitely possible to set up, that's for sure. The thing is they also play Scoop Up Net, so they can reset your quick shooting pings that you put on the Manaphy. So it's probably not a good matchup once they include the Manaphy, but they're not including Manaphy right now, and I'm sure that was a call that Robin and everyone else who played this list made. It was just like, no one's playing Manaphy right now, we should be safe, and I'm sure that was one of the calls. And even if you ran into like a Manaphy and an Arceus deck, probably not super scared of that, to be honest. You're probably not super scared of that. So a ton of Pokemon search. The evolution intends to level ball the quick ball. No ultra balls in here, and it kind of makes sense. You have a lot of low counts of a lot of stuff, so you can't really afford to ultra ball very much. Even when I was trying this out, the quick balls were costing me a lot. So I can understand why there's no ultra ball in here for sure, because everything is very, very low on counts. For Scoop Up Net, that's like one of the things, I mean, one of the few cards that there's a 4 of in here. The Evolution Sense Level Ball, Scoop Up Net are all 4 ofs. And to speak a little bit more, I guess, about the engine, that Keep Calling is just like super clutch in this deck for sure to help set up your initial board state. Depending on the matchup, Keep Calling, you can get out like double Urshifu plus Remoraid, maybe a Sobble in there, whatever. It depends on what your hand is. But yeah, Keep Calling is a really great initial setup support Pokemon alongside the Snorlax. Snorlax is great sometimes, but Keep Calling is sometimes better. So remember that if you guys are playing this deck. Keep Calling is super sick in here. 2 energy search. You got to find your energy, whether it be for the Gale Thrust or to set up the Moltres. That's one of the things I definitely felt like I struggled with a bit, and definitely a lot to learn about the deck for sure. But getting to the Moltres felt pretty tough. There is 2 energy search in here, and there is 5 darkness, but it did feel like it was sometimes still a struggle. We'll get to the rest of the supporters, and the supporter lineup is crazy here as well. 1 telescopic sight, like I mentioned with the G-Max Rapid Flow on Genesect. That's like the main time you'll probably want to be using the sight consistently, but there's a ton of other scenarios that could come up. A lot of stuff plays random stuff like Crobats or Luminions, where you're also going to want to be using the telescopic sight to take some easy 2 prize knockouts. No Echoing Horn in here like we've seen in the past, or the more recent builds of Rapid Strike Urshifu. So no Echoing Horn in here. There's usually Echoing Horn in quite a few in the Urshifu decks, but no Echoing Horn in this build. There is a Palpad in here and an Ordinary Rod. Like I said, the lines are very thin So some recovery through an ordinary rod or a palpad. All the supporters are one-ofs, and we're going to get into that in just a second. And then one Tower of Waters in here to have kind of some option of a switch card alongside the scoop up nets, but specifically to help you be able to move your Urshifus, I think more so than anything is why the Tower of Waters here. Also allows you to bump any stadium your opponent might have in play, which can always become useful. You know, collapse stadiums, pat to the peaks. I guess pat to the peak is actually not something you're scared of if you don't play any abilities, but collapse stadium or trading court, either you want to limit your opponent's outs through it, or you just, you know, it's just a card that you can allow you to move your Pokemon around, and Octillery can find it. So you have like an increased amount of outs to the Tower of Waters. So that's nice. All right, the supporter lineup. There's one of, was it 9 different supporters? They're all one-ofs, and that's I'm sure one of the main reasons they wanted to include the Palpad is just like you might want, you know, to get a second use out of some of these, especially stuff like Boss's Orders would be the main one, or the Raihan as well. But we got the one of Boss's Orders. There's a one of Cheryl. So in some matchups, they're punching your Urshifu. Cheryl heals your Urshifu. Of course, Cheryl's always been a ridiculously powerful card with the Rapid Strike Urshifu. And yeah, it makes sense to include in here. I'm sure there's a ton of situations in matchups where it's very nice to be able to utilize that, specifically probably against some Arceus decks, especially if they have the Dunsparce. Just making sure no one gets too far ahead in the prize exchange. I'm sure the Cheryl's pretty sick. For sure. So the Cheryl in here, the Boss's Orders, of course, you got to play Boss's Orders. Boss's Orders is kind of a staple. And then for the draw supporters, if you can call them draw supporters, they're not going to be consistently drawing you cards, to be honest. There's a one of Cynthia's Ambition, which is really good once your opponent has drawn a prize card. And there's a one of Zinnia's Resolve, which is once again not very good early on because you need your opponent to have like a pretty big bench, already be pretty set up. And I'm sure the reason for the Zinnia's Resolve is just to kind of both of the draw supporters, actually all the draw supporters. There's a Bird Keeper in here as well, which is still a draw supporter. You also get to switch stuff around, another way to kind of move your Urshifus around, but they all build on your hand. You don't actually ever shuffle your hand away or discard your hand with something like a Marnie or a Research. The Cynthia's Ambition draws up to 8 cards, so it builds on top of your current hand. Same thing with the Zinnia's Resolve. If you already have like a 5-6 card hand, maybe even bigger than that, you know, use Zinnia's Resolve, discard a couple bad cards, keep the rest of the good cards, and then you draw 6 new cards, ideally if they have a full board state. But a lot of times people will have a pretty full board, and this is like one of the biggest ways I think to help you get to that initial setup for like the Moltres. But another couple things that can help with that is like the Sonya. The Sonya in here not only can it help you in the early game to set up your bench Pokemon, and actually combos really well with Snorlax. I did like the play where I like Sonya to set up some Pokemon instead of keep calling, and then I got to set up like my bench Pokemon, and then I got to use Snorlax to just like kind of draw up to 7, which is nice. So the Sonya is really cool for that. But it can also find you basic energy, which is one of the ways you can actually set up that Moltres, which can be so annoying to find the energy for, to be honest. The Sonya can be super helpful for that. I had a game I remember where I just prized my second energy search, so I wasn't able to get the energy for the Moltres, but the Sonya was there. I think found my energy, and then I was able to attack with the Moltres after that. There's a Raihan in here, which of course has always comboed super well with Urshifu VMAX, and that's what you'll be mostly using it for in this deck, is for the Urshifu VMAX. You could get a Metachan play or a Moltres play off with it, of course, but most of the time, the Raihan is going to be being used for that Urshifu back-to-back Gmax Rapid Flows, or setting up just an initial Gmax Rapid Flow in general. Just Gmax Rapid Flow out of nowhere when you have 0 energy in play is just really, really good. There's a Clara in here if this helps you recover energy or even Pokemon, depending on the situation. Usually going to be a recovery for that Moltres. You can do like back-to-back Moltres plays, which is really cool with the Clara, of course, and a ton of decks have utilized this in the past. This isn't something new, but it's definitely new to be included with a Rapid Strike Urshifu deck. And I believe the last supporter here is the Peony, or Peonia. Which, of course, like I've been mentioning, there's a lot of one-ofs in this deck, and a lot of stuff that's super situational that you want access to depending on the situation. And Peonia helps you find those cards out of your prize cards, potentially, whether it be your last Rapid Strike Energy, your Telescopic Sight, maybe you need your Moltres, maybe you need your Passimian, whatever it is. Peonia either can guaranteed get you it if you've already drawn a couple prize cards, or gives you a pretty solid chance of finding that card. You have to prize it to begin with, and now you have a 50-50 of maybe getting it out of your prize cards. Usually pretty good chance. And if you've already drawn a couple prize cards, you know, of course your chances go up to hit that card that you want that's in your prize cards. So yeah, this list, like I said, it's crazy. It's all over the place. But it did just win the Liverpool Regional Championships, so it's very good. It's just very hard to play, but it's like a really good challenge. If you guys love just playing Pokemon and love the challenge of playing the game sometimes, then I would definitely recommend you guys pick up this deck and try it out. It's going to be tough to win games, but it's going to be super rewarding when you do win games and pull off some of the crazy, weird, convoluted plays that this deck is capable of making happen. Yeah, it's just a ton of fun. And that's kind of my breakdown of this Rapid Strike Urshifu, Hoopa, Moltres, Metacham, Inteleon, Octillery, Passimian, Snorlax, 9 one-of supporters deck that Robin Schulz used to win the Liverpool Regional Championships. And that's it. As always, I hope you guys are enjoying the content over here. I'm going to try and get a little bit more consistent over here on the YouTube channel. Going to be doing like more deck list breakdown videos like this because I do enjoy doing them. If you guys want to catch some gameplay from me, of course, always check out the live stream. And I'm going to be uploading some other gameplay videos over on the second YouTube channel, kind of separate from VODs. I'm going to be like breaking down the games that I play on Twitch, or like breaking up the VODs I play on Twitch and putting them into kind of smaller videos with just a bunch of gameplays of certain decks. So look out for those coming out soon as I get back into regularly streaming on Twitch as well. But have a good day, guys. See you tomorrow. Peace.